incredible special guest. So do make sure you come back. So we have Isabelle on screen. Okay, so let's bring you up into full screen, Isabelle.
Hi.
And then
Hello. I'm really bad with technology. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Isabelle.
Great. I'm very excited to be here. I think that this is such a good way for all of us to be together, and also we can get so many more people than we would have been able to fit in the theater originally, and we can all watch it at home, and then we can all talk about it, which I think is very, very cool. It's the new way of the future, and Deborah's genius idea to put this online. I'm very excited. I feel very honored to have gotten the opportunity to tell this story, and I'm so grateful to Deborah for thinking of me to play this part, but also to Ana Rosa for being brave enough not only to share this story with me and with all of us, but to share it with the world. If I'm going to drop the link to the, if anybody hasn't seen the New York Times article, you guys have to read it. You know, this guy is still out there, and it is really, I hope that with this movie we can get more people to see this and understand that it's not just a Harvey Weinstein situation. There are a lot of people out there that take advantage of not just women, but take advantage of lots of other people around the world. And it's nice that we can now share our stories and talk to each other and feel connected in this way. So I hope you guys all enjoy the movie. And all the incredible performances from Ana Rosa, who just gives her heart to this whole film, and Tarek, who played the most atrocious of men, and he's actually one of the sweetest people. So yeah, please enjoy the movie, and I can't wait to hear what you guys think after.
Maybe. Oh, hi, Isabelle.
Hi. I don't know if you or Deborah invited me.
I don't either. I just got here. But I thought maybe we could take a question while things are being fixed. There's a question. How this is maybe for you and Tarek. While we get Tarek back on, maybe you can answer this, Isabelle. How did the actors feel in the strange meta environment of filming an uncomfortable scene, whose premise is filming an uncomfortable scene? What discussions did you have regarding these moments?
You know, it's funny. It's you're still acting the truth of a moment, so it doesn't really feel like you're not thinking about it being meta necessarily. I remember like we were talking about even like the scene within a scene when Tarek and I have that scene in the room where we're like acting, and I remember we decided to like have an accent because it could differentiate between Pearl's playing a character and her being herself. But I think that in terms of the story, we just talked about the truth of each of those moments, and then you're in a room where you feel like this, like the space is safe, and working with great actors like you and Tarek, and even, you know, the majority of that scene we shot actually in that one day. So the reality of the situation of it being a long time in a room, what in the confining feeling that you have being in a room for an entire day, which I think we all can relate to now, you know, it really starts to weigh on you emotionally, that enclosed sort of space, and sharing it with a stranger especially. And so I think that everything kind of just played into itself, and we just were there and gave what we could to the moments of those scenes. I don't think it's really a thought that you have. It's more like a thought you have when you read the script initially.
Yeah. Deborah, did you want to answer anything about that? Like what conversations were had, or did you get the question?
And Isabelle, similarly, what made you decide to be part of this?
I was sent the script through my agent, but I also received a letter from Deborah. And I actually, Deborah cast me in my very first film that I had ever done when I was like 7.5. And I it was the first job I ever had, and we worked together a long time ago. And so I remember reading the script and then, you know, reading the letter that Deborah sent me, and immediately had to have a conversation with her. And, you know, we talked about the story and how she wanted to tell the story and how important it was to her to really make this film, to shift this, you know, this way of seeing movies about women is very much through a male gaze, and wanted to work towards seeing the side of what the female experience actually is like. The story itself obviously grabbed me initially. And I remember asking her, I was like, it says in the script that it's based off of a true story. Like, is this person going to be involved? This, like, you know, you know, taking on a story like this, I felt like I really wanted to understand, you know, understand the woman that who went through this, and she revealed to me that it was Ana Rosa and I, you know, I said yes, and Ana Rosa and I met in New York, and like immediately had this really great connection. And I felt like there was such a need to tell her story and to tell it right, especially because I think people perceive this archetype of like a woman who gets, you know, wronged, and it's most women experience situations like this in any line of work. It's not just this industry. And I felt like, you know, there are horrible people out there who take advantage of people in situations when they want to, you know, move forward in certain areas of their life, and they are, you know, working very hard and feel like the wall just keeps, you know, my mom always says, like, you know, one door closes, another one opens, and you feel like you're just going around the same block over and over. And that's when people like this real man who, you know, you read the New York Times article, step in and take advantage of people. And I just knew that I had to be a part of this. Like, this is why I love what I do, is I love being able to step into someone's shoes, and to be able to step into Ana Rosa's shoes, and to be guided by her and by Deborah, and to be able to work with Tarek. It just was one of those things where I felt every single day the importance of the story that we were carrying, and how important it was to push it forward into the world and to get people to see it like this.
Oh, Alicia. Can you see any of the questions?
Yes, I can.
Why don't you pick
hello.
one while we're waiting for her to come back? Oh, let's see.
Okay.
Let's see. I have to figure out how to do this.
There's a lot of questions. Okay, it's the meta one we already answered before. For Deborah, Ana Rosa is about, do you think telling a story about sexual assault comes with a lot of responsibility? How did this affect the process? I think telling anybody's true story, I think, comes with a lot of responsibility. I think we all felt such a I think we all treated the story with great respect. And Deborah, I think you can comment on that probably more. Like, we created such a safe space on set. It felt, you know, it felt like we were making something special on a daily basis. We filmed this movie in 12 days, which is an incredible feat in and of itself. And I felt every single day like I could look over at Ana Rosa, and I knew that she trusted me, and I trusted her, and I trusted Deborah, and I trusted Tarek, and we had this circle, like, you know, where we were moving forward every single day and telling the story and discovering new things. And I think, you know, I think it is important to understand and respect the story, but you also want to respect the truth and make sure that you're you know, showing true moments. And that's what I think, Deborah, you did so well with this movie. But you guys comment.
I think, yeah, well, I think there was also, Isabelle, you're back. Did you see any questions you want to answer on the scroll by chance? We've lost our moderator, who I know had a lot of questions.
Yeah, we're trying to get her back on, and the connection doesn't seem to be coming through, but we're keeping to try and get her back with you soon.
And folks, if you want to ask your question live, if you put an asterisk before you write your question in the question box, we can pull you up to ask your question live. We'll also just be looking at your questions in the question box as well. You can, of course, keep going through on the chat, but if you have a specific question, if you can go to ask a question in that box, it's easier for us to grab them. And if you'd like to come on screen, put an asterisk.
I was going to say, I think there's a great question I think all of us can answer. What part of the filming process was hardest to film? Was there any scene that took more out of the actors? Anything that felt more vulnerable than others?
All of them.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think all of them, but I also think like what you just said, Tarek, is so true. Like that, the scene where we do the scene, that whole, like all that time in that warehouse, essentially, we filmed that basically in a day. So if you can imagine, and we also, that was like how many hours was that day, Deborah?
I don't know that I'm allowed legally to say, but I think it was 20 or 22. It was a long day.
It was one of those.
It was the final day.
It was one of those things where I felt like it was the hardest and yet the easiest scene to film. I think we had mentally prepared for it more so than any other. We had rehearsed it and blocked it. It was like we knew exactly what we were going to do. But it took, because it was this long scene, a lot of it sits in the silences and in the moments between the dialogue. And so as we were doing the scene and we were shooting it from all these different angles, and it's supposed to be time passing, so there's lights changing, and we're just like sitting there on the bed. It's one of those things where at the end of the day, when we finally got to the point where where Pearl says, "Fuck it, I really did feel that way," and it's because I think what I was saying is like all of us,
and I was like, "Get on with it."
and I think all of us understand now, sitting inside and being confined, like being in a confined space, especially with someone that you don't feel safe with. You're negotiating with them as much as you're negotiating with yourself. And I think that's something people don't see when they hear about these stories that fall in this gray area of what sexual assault is. I think people look at coercion and go, "Oh, well, that is, you agreed to it." But this movie, I think, shows that that's not what this is. That, coercing someone into doing something that they don't feel comfortable is a very real issue, and that is assault. Not just on a person physically, but mentally. And I think more people experience that than we even know, because I think it becomes then a question that you ask yourself, like, was it me? Was it me or was it them? And that's why I feel like the story is so important, and why I'm not just like, I love Omarosa, but I'm incredibly proud of her for coming forward and saying that this is her story, because I think people will begin to understand that this is not just, like I said earlier, a Harvey situation. It's not these big, massive, huge producers. There are people at every single level in every industry that do things like this. And this scene was like the biggest scene in the movie, and I felt like it was the easiest to film and yet the most vulnerable and the hardest at the same time. And I think everyone who worked on it behind the scenes too would say the same thing.
Yeah, it was a long, hard day. At a certain point, we were going way over. And
oh no, I think we lost Tarek.
Oh, well, he'll be back. But we were going over, and I remember, going to crew members and saying, "Can you stay, or you're welcome to go if you need to," and coming up to, Isabelle and Tarek and saying, "Look, do you want to call it a night? We had an issue. It was our last day. Like, it was going to be a problem to get back in, but we would have made it happen the next day." But I remember Isabelle and Tarek were just like, "Let's do it." And I think part of that was they had been in that room. I mean, what happened, and I'll let Omarosa talk more about this, but she was in that room for 8 hours. And I think there's something about the actual time it took us to get through that day. It was a 20-hour day, I think 22 by the time I left. And, Isabelle and Tarek were really in that experience. And I think in the end, we all talked about after it was over that, oh, so thank goodness we stayed in it, because we couldn't have recreated that, what we were in there.
But I also think that the exhaustion we were feeling, not just physically, but emotionally, lends itself to what was actually going on, because very clearly Isabelle's character was.
Well, I just to speak on from my perspective, watching Omarosa take on this role, I felt even from the first day, and the first day that you filmed Omarosa, you shaved your head. I think you transformed from that moment forward, and you are like one of the kindest, sweetest, cutest people. And watching you get to be this like badass in the movie, I think you acquired some of that and realized that that was in you the whole time. And I remember you were joking one night, we were filming late, and you were like, this is just like the craziest, most expensive form of therapy I've ever done, you know, and I'm making great friends. And I think it's true. It's like, you know, you have such a powerful story to share. And I, you know, being able to watch you like take on this character and virtually splatter his brains out.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, you went away, Omarosa. What were you going to say, Isabelle?
Oh, I think that was all I was going to say. Should we pick another question?
Yeah, let's do. Does anyone want to pop on to the screen and ask your question live? Because it's a live stream Q&A.
Oh, I like this question for you, Deborah. While someone maybe comes forward to see if they want to come on the, Alan asked, I was heartened to see so many female crew members in the credits. Can you talk about how that might have impacted the set and perhaps why it's so important for film crews to be diverse and representative? Thank you. This film really moved me.
Well, I flipped it a little. I was about to say women have to get naked and there are a bunch of guys around, but actually a man had to get naked in this one. The women stayed clothed, which, you know. But even so, I think women hold the space
during the movie.
I know, we were naughty. I think women holding the space is different. And anyone want to pop on? Anyone putting an asterisk by their name because they want to pop on and ask a question live or make a comment live? Oh, Tarek, you're going to come on about having women?
Can we talk about the nudity?
I think he wants to talk about
Tarek, talk about the nudity.
Being the
only one naked.
Down.
Oh, yeah.
We need to talk about this right now.
Oh,
please.
I want to show the slow motion. I should have prepped the slow motion video of Tarek doing push-ups for every single take.
No, stop. Okay.
While I was just sitting on the bed in the robe, okay.
When Deborah was like, I want you to play this character, she told me full on, like, you're going to be freaking naked, dude. Like, for a lot of film. Women have been naked on film forever, and now it's your turn to be naked, and none of us are going to be. So I was like, okay. So then, of course, the dieting and the working out started and all that stuff. But I mean, that's the funny part. But the honest part about it was the first moment when he starts unbuttoning his shirt and he starts taking his clothes off. But at Deborah, and I'm like, Deborah, is this what's happening? Like, we're
all right. Well, I think, I would just like to bring Isabelle and Tarek up one more time and see if they have any final closing remarks, and Omarosa as well. And I'd like to just thank everyone, the incredible cast and crew. I want to thank again Together Films, who Sarah Moses, who put this whole thing together in a weekend. Emily Positano from Made Manifest, and Shannon and Janice and Betsy from Falco Inc. All of those people are why we're here doing this right now. And the person, again, as Omarosa said, that's really the real reason we're all here is Ken Romansky, and I'm forever grateful. Again, all of the cast gave everything of themselves, and the crew killed themselves for this film. and the work was extraordinary. And we're going to keep talking. We have 2 weeks of conversations. You don't have to pay to come back to the conversation. So if you saw the film tonight, you're welcome, of course, to pay for another night to see it again. But you can come back any night to join us in these conversations, and we will be talking with some of our crew. We can go in deeper into the conversation around, you know, creating the look. I know there were some questions about that, and we can get to that because I'm talking about moving from the male gaze to the female experience on a lot of my panels, and we're going to have some really interesting conversations. You know, there's an evening we're talking about the ethics around using a hidden camera, and tomorrow we're going to have a conversation with young actresses, Isabelle and Anna Rosa, and a group of others that are coming to you know, talk about what it's like to be a young actress in the Me Too era. Tarek will be back to be on a panel talking about how to be a male ally. We have 13 more days of conversation, so please come back and join us. And again, I'm so grateful to everyone who came and created community and had this conversation with us. It means everything to me. And I'm so grateful you all stuck it out with us in the beginning, and grateful that you're here now. So I'm just going to turn it over so we can hear from Tarek and then Isabelle, and we'll finish with Anna Rosa, and we'll say
Isabelle.
Well, I just want to say thank you guys all for joining us. And like Deborah said, please continue to come back and be a part of the conversation. It's not like you guys have anything better to do. And what a great way to spend your evening, seriously. But this film really means so much to me. It did from the first time I read it, and just getting to be a part of it, and now a part of this community, and, you know, not just the tape community of our cast and our crew, but also, you know, the broader scope of the community of women that have come to either find this movie or have come to share their stories or have come to be a part of it. So I just want to thank all of you for being so incredibly brave, and for being here with all of us tonight. And hopefully, I hope that this movie allows people to feel brave enough to share their own story, because the only way that things are going to change is if more people keep talking about it, and if we can, like Deborah did so beautifully in this film, shift the narrative into this female experience. And so you have to let people into that experience in order for that to happen. And it's scary, but I think Anna Rosa is proof that, you know, is proof that, you know, it can really be cathartic in a sense. And, you know, it doesn't mean that you're still not going through it. And we talk about that too. You know, this has been such a you know, since we filmed the movie, even Anna Rosa deciding to come forward and say this was her story. Like, last I saw you, like 2 weeks ago, before the entire world changed, it was, you weren't going to say that it was. And so I really admire you for your bravery and for coming forward, and just want to thank everyone involved and everyone who came to watch, and just thank you guys, and come back. Anna Rosa.
Oh, yeah, thank you.